Now here I will copy this. Composer require Firebase PHP JWT. That's the best library out there. Really easy to use. It will just make our life easier to use JWT in our RESTful PHP API. So let's go to PHP Storm, and here I will open the terminal. You can otherwise just use iTerm or the terminal app from your Mac or from Windows, and just paste this. Composer require Firebase PHP JWT. However, hold on, we don't have Composer yet set up. So first we will have to actually install Composer first. So let's type Composer install, and in my case I will install Composer. Composer is a dependency manager, or a package manager if you prefer, for PHP. It's similar to NPM or Yarn, or there are a lot of different ones out there. For JavaScript, you have mostly NPM, Yarn, you have Bond, you have which one else? You have quite a lot. Oh yeah, PNPM is also quite famous. For PHP, is quite the only one, Composer. And here we are going to install it. So for me, I'm on Mac, so I will go here, install Linux, Unix, macOS. If you're on Windows, use this one. In my case, I will click here. So it's get composer /doc/ the easiest is just to Google it, composer install. And here I will just go into copy, download. So first I will download this file. Beautiful. Perfect. And from there, two ways, see locally. I'm used to directly use CURL. Wait, let me install. There's an easier way actually to install Composer. I don't know why it shows me this way. Composer v2 in terminal. I think that's the best way. I don't know why it was showing me the other way normally. It's just easier to do everything in the terminal. Get Composer. You see, that's the proper way. If you have CURL, so just make sure you have it. I will just paste this one, and it will use the setup. So here is in CURL, and then I'm going to use that one. It's just to make sure that everything is correct. Oh, I have PHP. Oh, I think it's a $sign. It's because when I copied, there was a $sign. Oh no, there was no $sign. That's weird then. Didn't work. No such a file. Oh, it's because when we download it, I think it's because I didn't move. Oh yeah, let me use that one. It's because the hash variable was not set. And now, because it uses hash here, you see, and now, oh, installer verified. Perfect. It has to be verified like this. This is the output. And then now we can use the Composer setup. You see, from TMP, that was where we downloaded Composer. I will just have to type my password. It's downloading now. Let's just wait. And let's see, you see, if you just see earlier, here, this one, we downloaded the installer in TMP folder composer-setup.php. And now we are running that one with sudo. Okay, it's done. And that's it. Like now, if I do composer v for the version, composer v is 2.5. Perfect. So composer has been installed. Wonderful. So now I'm ready to install this one, but first I will just do composer init. Or is it init or no? It's not init. Oh yeah, it's init. composer init. That's like npm. It's the same command, so it makes our life easier. It's just to initiate the composer.json file, and the name to be this one by default. The description, a simple RESTful API for a Udemy course. Perfect. Author, that's me. And let's press enter for everything else. Beautiful. So now we should have a composer.json file. We do. And now we are ready to install this one. Composer require Firebase PHP JWT. Let's wait. You see it's being downloaded. Beautiful, all done. So now, since we have Firebase PHP JWT, the next thing we should do is to start our first file, our PHP file. So how to do this? Well, I can just do touch index.php, but I could also create here in project in PHP Storm. Now it depends, maybe you use VS Code, Visual Studio Code, doesn't really matter, just do your own way. So you here with PHP Storm, and it's really similar with Visual Studio Code. I can just do here PHP file, you see, so I can either do touch PHP or just doing new PHP file, and then I create my file. And here I already created my index.php, but I will also have different files in src, and I will already have one. It will be endpoint. So here I will do endpoint.php, or maybe I will do routes for our router. So routes.php. So now I have routes.php in src and index.php here. And here I can do PHP, and here I will do echo hello world. Yes, hello you, hello world. And obviously no closing PHP tag. We don't do this anymore. That's a bit old-fashioned. So just opening tag, because this one is not needed. Only if you want to have HTML code or something else there, but otherwise you don't need this. And actually it can also lead to some issues having that. So you only use the ending tag, the end PHP tag, so to the closing tag, only if you want to have other contents like HTML content below the PHP code. But normally you only need the opening PHP tag. And now I can run my PHP server. And for doing this, so it does automatically. If you don't have PHP, you can install PHP with Homebrew. On Mac or on Windows, you can also install PHP. Here in my case, I have PHP 7.3. I might have to upgrade it to PHP 8. And you see, I just run hello world. Now, if I want to set up a server, it has to be done differently. Here, this one, the play button, is just to execute that specific PHP file. It does the same as doing, I will show you. It's the same as doing PHP index.php, basically. And now if I want to run my server, I do PHP s option and 127.0.0.1. And then the path is actually the current path. So I do dot. I need the port as well, 8080. And that one already exists, so maybe 9000. And now if I go to 1000, boom, something didn't go as expected. Resource component available. Okay. I think it's like something is not compatible with something else. Maybe if I do index, index, if I do this, I just go, here we are. It was probably the path because I used the dot earlier. So because here we are already in that specific folder, where I want the PHP server to run. Obviously, PHP has that PHP inbuilt PHP server. It's only for development purposes. Don't use it on production. And so I just run PHP as the URL. I could have done also localhost as well, like this, and the port. But usually we use 127.0.0.1. And now if I do localhost, boom, here we are. Hello world, hello you. And if I change it to hello you, I save it. You see, automatically it's there. I don't have to restart my PHP server. So now the first thing I want to do, I will just erase this one, the hello world, and I will require the root.php. So require once because I want that file to only be included once. Although index.php it's really unlikely that root.php will be included more than once. I'm aware that require underscore once. It's a little bit slower. It consumes a little bit more of CPU because it will check internally that it has been included only once, but the downside is really little, so it's always better to have that habit to use require once instead of require. You can, however, still do this require, that's still fine. And then single quote, because single quote, it's always faster. Why it's faster? Because double quotes, PHP will also check if there are any variables. So if we look on Google, PHP double quote vs single quote, so PHP will interpret the double quote like if there is any variable inside, so it will not see double quote only as a string, but it will also interpret that string. So here you see we display included some regex and underscore as well. So interpreting the result require lot of expire and interpolate. We use that term in IT, interpolated. Interpolate is a little bit similar if you use JavaScript with the string template JS since JS 6. So since ES 6, you have the template literals or template string, and so you use this character, so the backtick, and by using the backtick you can also use some variables inside, and we call it as interpolate the string. Does it say it? Yeah, interpolation, string interpolation. And it's exactly the same with PHP. But when we don't need this, like here, to include a file, we just use the single quote. And so I will do src/root.php. And I will also include our composer autoloader to have our PHP JWT in the scope of our project. How to do so? Well, you can just do autoload composer include. It's really simple. So the basic one is vendor/autoload. So let's have a look. Vendor/ that one. So if I just do this, and the use actually require, so you see, but you could have require once either, it's up to you, but now because it's index.php, it's safe, we know that it won't be included more than once, so let's only use require. And there, that constant is available since PHP 5, I think, and it's a good constant. It will have the full path, so PHP dir, if I do php.net, it's a bit similar to file, but it's only for the directory and not for the full path with the file name included. So dir, dir, let's have a look here, predefined constant. If I look, it's funny, that's only the comments. If I click here, it will probably be here. Oh no, not here. Interesting. Oh, it's here, you see? So directory of the file, and that's dir. It's available since PHP 5, I believe. So if you use really old projects, you will see they still use the file constant. PHP 5.3. Yeah. So now we can use this one and this one, and we are ready to go basically. And we will use our roots, and we will start creating our first endpoint. So here what I will do, I will create a new folder in our src folder. So if you just wonder what means src, it means source. So it's the abbreviation for source. So it could have been like this, but usually it's like a standard, it's a convention to write it as src, but it's the same as doing this. It's like the code source, the source code of our application. And here I will create a new folder. It will be endpoints with a S, why not? And here we will create our new resource for our API, and that endpoint, it will be about user. So user dot maybe capital letter, so uppercase, capital letter, uppercase for the U, user.php. It's a class, so it's better to use uppercase for the U. User, perfect, it will be like this. That will be my class user. Here I will have a constructor. I can already create that one, and then we will have different methods such as public function, create a user, and so on. And we can also use the type declaration. So for instance, void if the function doesn't return anything. Beautiful. So now let's start implementing our user class. So the user class is the class that we call in roots.php. It's where we will have the interaction with the user. So creating a user, deleting a user, edit the data of a user in our API service, our PHP API service. So the first thing I would like to share with you is the property promotion in constructor. So constructor property promotion, it's something really interesting you should do because it helps your code to be cleaner, to be shorter, and to me it seems also easier to read. It's something similar in TypeScript. If you are used to TypeScript, you also have this. In TypeScript, the name is constructor property shorthand, something like this. And in TypeScript it's really similar. So I believe if you have done TypeScript, you probably know what I mean. When you declare the access, so the visibility access of each property, of each attribute, automatically it will do this behind the scene in the background. And for PHP, it's exactly the same. When you mention the access level, so private, protected, public, read-only, automatically it will know. So in our case, what we have here, we have name. So I will do private $name, and it will be a string. So I will mention string name, and then again private $. Our user will have an email, and then again it's a string and a string, and then here we'll have phone number. Again, it will be private. But what I can do, and actually I will do this, I can do public read only. Beautiful. So the read only in PHP is really recent, read only PHP. And again, see, since PHP 8.1, it's really powerful. So here public, you see public read only like this. And then, oops, sorry, yeah, the type has to be before. I think sometimes, you get confused when you do a lot of TypeScript. You mention the type after, but it has to be before. In PHP, it's really important. It has to be the first you have the access visibility, or the level access, or private, protected, public, and then the type, and finally the name of the property, the name of the parameter. And automatically PHP will do this name equals name, and it's like before when we had to declare everything like this, but it's really verbose doing that. So this is why the constructor property promotion, it's a really interesting concept. So let's continue. Now I have a name, I have email. Again, I will do public here, read only, and here we do public too, and it will be read only as well. I think it's here there's a warning because my project is not configured to be PHP 8.1. So let's switch to PHP 8.1. It will also set the minimum required version in our composer.json. Oh no, it's not the case. So I have to do it manually. So I will do PHP here in require, and then I will mention the minimum version I want has to be 8.1.0. I might move to 8.2, but for now 8.1. And by doing this, it's really good because when you get my project, you want to install it, you will directly know, oh yes, I need PHP 8.1 at least. And when you install different packages, it will know, oh, this project requires at least PHP 8.1 to run. And so you don't have any issues with different PHP versions and different packages you install in your project. Something else I also recommend to do is to use platform. So here we'll do config, first config, and there we have platform. And in platform, this will fake a PHP environment. So it will behave like in your server on production, you only have PHP 8.1, for instance. So this is useful when, for instance, you are running on PHP 7, you install a package compatible with PHP 7, but because on your production server you have PHP 7, and because you installed a new package which has some fancy new different fancy features from PHP 8, it might break on production because PHP 8, if you use read-only or if you use the constructor property promotion, it won't work with PHP 7. This is why it's a good idea to use config platform, so it will ensure that all of the packages and so on will be compatible. So here you see, if we check on the official documentation of Composer, platform lets you fake platform packages, PHP and extensions, so that you can emulate a production environment or define your target platform in the config. For instance, PHP 7.8, and then you can also add some extensions. And it's always handy to make sure that nothing breaks with specific PHP version you have on your server, because maybe now locally you have a different PHP version, so that package will work locally, so it will be fine, it will be installed, but then on production, because it's a different PHP version, bam, it breaks. And this is why, to make sure, okay, I install that package on my local, it works, it uses some PHP 8 like for instance what we used here, the constructor property promotion. But because on my server I have only PHP 7.4 and that package uses different kind of requirement, it might not work. So here I do PHP and then it will be 8.1.0. So the same version as the one as I have here on require. So exactly like that. However, I use the specific version, so only 8.1 or 8.2, and I don't mention greater or equal to. It has to be a set version. So here we leave as 8.1 for now. Now, since our PHP version are currently configured, let's make sure we have the same on our local environment. Indeed, at the moment I have PHP 7.3, so I have to update my PHP version to PHP 8.1. To do so, if you are on Mac, it's quite easy. You can use Homebrew and you can install PHP, the latest version. So first, usually what you do is to do brew update. First, to update all of the cache, what Brew has in cache, and then we will be able to continue. And if you use Windows, you might use a different dependency manager. Maybe you use Chocolately Windows, or maybe you can just use MAMP. MAMP, that's on Mac as well. You can use XAMPP on Windows. MAMP is also available on Windows as well. Otherwise, you can use XAMPP, or you can just use a different server. So Chocolately, maybe Chocolatey can be also handy for you. You have all different dependency manager on Windows. It depends what you use. In my case, I use Mac, so I use the most popular one, Homebrew. If you use Ubuntu, you can use apt-get. And perfect. So we'll just see to install PHP. Let's see what it will do for us. Now we have to wait. If you need, it's quite handy to know that the PHP versions for Homebrew are being updated here on this GitHub repository, Homebrew PHP by Shivan Mathur, and he did a really great job. So you see the latest PHP version is PHP 8.2. So now let's go back to our terminal. It hasn't finished for me, so we still have to wait. Maybe for you it's already done. For me, I just need to wait because it takes quite a long time to download everything and then to apply all of the changes as well. All right, now it has been completed. And now if I do PHP V, I have PHP 8.2.5 because I just wanted to have the latest version. This is why I did PHP install Brew install PHP without specifying any kind of version. Otherwise, I could have done, PHP like specifically mention a version like at 8.3, 8.1. In my case, 8.2.5 is perfect. It's the latest version at the time I record this video. So now we have the PHP version set up for our project. So we are all good to go. If I go here as well, normally I should have the new one. Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, let's continue our API service. Before to go any further, let's install a client RESTful API. So like Insomnia, so like API client for RESTful API. It's really handy to send requests and so on. You have Postman. Postman is the most common one. The other one you have, really famous too, and I like it too. And in today's course we will use that one, is Insomnia. So the API client RESTful Insomnia software, beautiful, this one, and we can click on download. We will download Insomnia. For me, I'm on Mac OS, so I will click Mac OS. If you like Postman, that's fine too, because it's really similar. It's basically almost the same. You just send a request. So Insomnia and Postman is really handy because you can easily send a post, delete, or put request. Usually with your browser, it's always a get request. And you can also mention easily a payload. So the data you want to send to your API endpoint. And then you can easily set different headers. For instance, because we use JWT, we will use the authorization header key, and that will be handy to do so with Insomnia or Postman. Now Insomnia has been downloaded for me. I will double click there. I will move it to application. Like this. Beautiful. And now normally, should be there. Perfect. I'll open it, and we will use it later on for sending the endpoint request against our local server. And I said don't share for now. You see that's the interface, and you just set the URL. That's the authorization keys. You will be able to set later on queries, and we can easily create new requests, create collections of different requests, and so on. Because we spoke about the API, about Insomnia, Postman, and we are building an API service, it's important to know exactly and to understand how a RESTful API works. So this is the workflow. Obviously, it uses HTTP methods such as get, post, put, delete. Get is to retrieve a resource, to retrieve some data. Post is to create some data or to update it. Delete is to delete a resource. And put is to update, usually to update a resource. So here you see that's actually the code. So create, read, update, delete. Normally in how a database works, we use the CRUD. So when we have to create a user, to read a user, to update or to delete. And actually the image says exactly what I just said. Create, we use post normally, always. Read, we use get. Update, put or post. And delete, we use delete HTTP method. So you can see in Insomnia, I have get, post, put. Patch, it's also to update, but we don't use that one very often. But it's also to update something, just a partial data of the endpoint. And yeah, that's all. So I hope now you understand a little bit better how a RESTful API works, and this is a different HTTP methods. As you have understood, a RESTful API uses only the HTTP methods for the different actions we want to have our service to do. So every time we do a get or update, so I put, we don't, in our endpoint, we don't do like, like here I have my service.com, update this one. No, we use a noun. We don't use a verb in the endpoint names. That's a convention. You don't have to, but it's much better to always use a noun. And that way the other developers will also understand better how your API is designed. And then I have user here. And if I want to update the user, it will be post or put, and then, or even patch if you wish. But usually that one, like I said, is not really common. If you really want to get to retrieve a user, we use get, and then it will be user ID here, like 24, user number 24. And if we want to update user 24, it will be post. If we want to delete user number 24, it will be delete, exactly this way. So the name, the noun, what we do, so like here user, and then the ID. If we want to get all users, it will be users like that, and a get. And this an API works this way, and then we will retrieve all of the users. Now we know, I hope you understand better exactly how a RESTful API works. We will now implement the endpoints in our code base here. So here we will create the other methods for our other endpoints. So we have create, public function, we will have retrieve to retrieve the user. So here we will create later on a user class, and that's to retrieve the user. Oh, I need the parentheses. And then here I will have another one, which is remove the user. I cannot do delete. If you try to, no, because this is a reserved keyword in PHP. So if I did delete, it wouldn't work, because delete is to delete a variable in PHP. You can do delete and the name of the variable or an array, and this is why it's a reserved keyword. So I need to have like remove instead. And the return type will be boolean, so bool. Be careful, don't write boolean like this, because in PHP the type is always bool and not boolean. And actually PHP is mentioning this in the documentation, so you have to be careful, because boolean, PHP will think it's like a class named boolean, so you need to mention the short version, so bool and not boolean. The same for integer, it has to be int. You see, otherwise it will think, oh, boolean, I cannot find that class boolean. You have to use bool. This is a return type, and then, and the same if I have it in a parameter and the type is boolean, it has to be like bool and then enable. It has to be like that. Okay, so now remove, retrieve, create, and here we will have all, so only every user. I will maybe have it on the top here, public, or I have retrieve, so it will, I will just have it before retrieve, public function, retrieve all, it will be, and that will be for all users, and it will return an array, so it will be array, perfect. And then I have retrieve and update. So the last one, public function update, perfect. Again, it will return again, let's return the user. So once it's updated, we will return the updated user data. Beautiful. So we have all of them: remove, update, retrieve all, so all users, and then we have create. Now let's create some helpers. For doing so, we will create a helpers folder. Inside, we will create a PHP file. The name will be misc for miscellaneous .inc.php.inc, because we will include that file elsewhere. And then miscellaneous, I just add a comment. PHP Storm says to me that I have a typo. It's really handy. In VS Code, you can install a plugin, an extension, to tell you automatically if you have a typo in your comments. Here I create a response function. That function will be really handy for our API endpoints. So first I have the header. It will be a content type application JSON to mention to the browser, for instance, that the resource is JSON, all of the resource, and here we mention JSON encode to encode the data into JSON format. And I have a parameter, so my parameter is data. I will just take out the header content type, and I will create probably a different file. So here first I will require with dir for directory. I will require the misc file, helpers, and you see Oh yeah, sorry. Actually, our helpers folder was inside of endpoints. It has to be on the same level as SRC. And here I'm about to create a new file. It will be headers.inc.php, and there I will have the content type application JSON. So that one, like I was saying, is handy to mention that the data type is JSON. We return JSON. And here I have allow access control. This is really important for the browser to mention that we allow anything from anywhere. For the API, it's a security thing. So here first I use again the dir constant. Oh, there's a typo in there. Yeah, I had. It's only to underscore dir underscore. I will just so in headers I made also a typo. It's access control allow origin. That one. That's the correct one. And then here I will just refactor and I will update in another file. So in SRC, I will create a new PHP file. So here I have allow course. As you can see, I'm creating a new class, a PHP class, allow course, and there I will reuse the headers. It's just a little refactoring because it will be much easier for later on to reuse allow course if I need the same headers. First we store the header key in a constant like access control allow origin, and the same for methods. Normally we don't need that one, the methods, but just in case for now I will mention it. And here those constants will be for the values. So I have the allow course origin value and it will be asterisk, so it means it's everything. We don't want to only allow it to one specific domain. Here it's everything, and then I have a initiate init method function, and I will just mention in there initialize the cross origin resource sharing. So it's course CORS headers, and there void, that's a return type. It's handy that now since PHP 7 we can have types everywhere basically. And here I have a private function is set. So that one will set the headers, the proper headers with the proper keys like allow course origin and the other one for the methods. So first you see we have key and value as argument, and inside of the body of the function we will reuse the header function from PHP to send the proper header to the browser, to the web browser. And here we'll have key first, and then it will be, you see, the key like that one. And after that, colon, and then the value. Yeah, that looks okay. And here I do this set, and then I will have self, so I call the constant from the same class inside of the same class where I am. So that's why we do self colon, allow course origin key, and then we do the value, so to be self again, colon, and then allow course origin value. And here I will have another one for the methods. So to be allow course key methods value. And here we'll have get. You see that's for the different HTTP methods we allow. So again, it's a security thing. We can mention to the browser what we want to allow, what we don't want to. And most of the web browsers will respect those headers. So here we allow everything. So get, post, put, delete, patch, and options. That's everything we allow. For security matters, you can restrict to only a few methods. So now instead I mention the value first, and yeah, there's the first value, so it's allow course origin value. And then here I will have the same but for the methods. So allow course methods key, beautiful. And here I have the value. So allow course methods value. And here, yeah, just inside of headers.inc.php, as you can see, instead of sending the header, I will send the headers, the course, CORS headers, but by calling allow course class. Alright, this video will be quick. We will basically go to index.php, and there we will include routes.php, so that one. That's a file where we will have all of the different routes, and it will be a main one, a major one. So first we will do a require, and require once, always better. It's always a better practice to do require once. Dir, that constant for the directory, and then we need / endpoints, and there it will be user.php. Semicolon, and here I will just move allow course in the src, the source folder, and there you see it has been moved, so that's perfect. I can go to headers, I can see the path, I do namespace ph7, I do ph7 because it's me, and usually I prefix my project with ph7. For you it could be something else, but for this tutorial, for this course, I suggest you to follow exactly the same as me to prevent mistakes. So ph7, you can see now I have it in allow course and in the header inc.php, and there, if I go there, I will I have headers, root, and if I go to composer.json, I will update the namespace, so that namespace will be ph7, and then I have the second one, API simple, so I will add that one after. That's the second path, so API simple menu, the second path of our namespace. Perfect, I have that now. And ph7, which is the root namespace, just some indentation with fixes in the user class, and then here I will do the same in headers.inc.php. Perfect, everything is now done, beautiful. And then in root.php, ph7 / API simple menu. Wonderful. So I can see it now in the files we have changed, and in composer.json that has been updated. Now we do a composer dump. So dump auto load, it will reload the composer cache so it will know what to load for the next time. Alright, so now we are in index.php and I will add a namespace there. Again, ph7 \API simple menu, like what we did already before. Here you can see I have the user class and it's not used. So we are going to call it, to call that user class. Let's add first a switch statement in routes.php with post, so we will be able to check what we receive from the request when a user or when our client is calling our API. So we are going to have some case. So some case, it means when it matches from the switch statement, when the action is something, then we call something. It's similar to the if statement, if, else, else if. And first, now we are creating an object, the user object. We initialize that object, and so we will have the user variable, which is the user object. So here I'm going to call the retrieve method, which is in so the retrieve method is located in the user class. So let's continue this, and there first let's have a look. So yeah, because with retrieve we need also the user ID, because this is what it takes as an argument. So there I'm going to do a get variable. First we have to make sure it does exist or not, because we always have to take into account that the request might not include the user ID get request. So user ID get request is like you have question mark and then you have user ID equals and then the user ID. And here the default in our switch statement is 404, not found. That's normal. And then we continue there. So there I can use, you can use the coalescing, the null coalescing operator. It's a really handy one. So we are going to use that one. Null coalescing operator. Oh, I made a typo. And perfect, it looks good. And then we need question mark, and then if it's not set, it will be null. So coalescing operator is always like the variable, and if it's undefined, it will be the second value after the double question mark. And that looks good. Let's continue this. And there, so I will create the user class directly. So here I will call the create method. Inside of create, again, if we receive create from the action, so if the action get request is equals to create, we call the create method. The same for remove. This is actually all of the different methods we will have, and we can add more and more later on, and you will see we will actually. So that's everything related to the user. So here you see I have retrieve, I have also retrieve all. By default, for now, I will just leave an empty array until it's implemented. And there I can just type default, it will be retrieve all. Probably this will be the default case, or yeah, I might do it a bit differently later anyway. But for now, let's do this. Retrieve. Perfect. And so here you can see that's all of the different methods we have already in our user class. And here I will again do update. That's the other one we didn't implement yet, and it will update the user. That will be for later when we will implement update method. And I will actually rename to user.root.php. It makes more sense. Beautiful, it has been updated. You can see the file name is different, and then I can create a folder. It will be better and more organized if we have everything in a roots folder. And here we create a main roots file, and the main roots file will include the roots, the user.roots.php. See, that one will just include user.roots.php, and I'll just take that file is not found. I will do a dir name here to go to the parent folder, and then I will just go here in roots. I will include, and I will add a new switch, and in that new switch, if we receive user action, we will call the user.root.php. So we will return the user root file. Perfect. So here first I have resource. Again, I use the null collecting operator, and there I do case user, and I will return require once for the user.root.php, and I do a break. I don't need the break actually, the break statement, because I do return already. And then the default is 404, not found. Yeah. So we just use return there. Indeed, we don't need that break. I will just do not needed. Yeah, at least you know not need to declare the break, because the break statement here, because return will already stop the switch. So we can now remove that comment because it's not really needed, but at least you know. Beautiful. And let's continue. You see, even here, unreachable, our ID, our PHP, WebStorm in my case, says it, PHP Storm. So now I can go make sure the include is done. Here the path doesn't exist, so let's fix that because we moved to roots folder. Perfect, and that's the main roots.php file. Beautiful. And here we have the different ones. That's correct. Now everything has been done, so you can see we have the roots.php in index.php. it's in roots folder, and we have user.root.php. Beautiful. Alright, so now here we are going to move the switch statement to the match statement. Match exists since PHP 8. It's really powerful because you have to write less code, it's more readable, and you can see we have here create. So when it matches create, we call user arrow create. So user arrow create. The same for retrieve arrow, and then you have user retrieve, and then the same for remove. We have remove, and then we will call the remove method, and then I will just add a comment about match. So match since PHP 8.1. Let's continue with update. When it matches update, and again user arrow update, and I'm calling update method. And then finally we can have a default. So default is when none of the previous keys, so create, retrieve, remove, update, matches, we have the default. It will call the default one. So default is the same as the default one in the switch statement. It's exactly the same. So now we have enum for creating enumeration, and there we will use enum with match. This is why it's so powerful, because with PHP you can it's really handy because you can use the power of match with enumeration. You will see we will use the key of the enum. So first we assign the value variable. That will probably be for later. Now let's return match, and then there I'm defining my user action enum. It's a string. This is what it returns. And yeah, by the way, I made a mistake about match. It's actually available since PHP 8 and not 8.1. And then we'll use get response string, and here I will just add a case. So with enum you can use case. It's actually when one of the enum key has matched. So when the name is the one, so it's how we declare a enum in PHP. I know in PHP it's a little bit different compared to different languages, how we declare enumeration. If you are used to enum in TypeScript, for instance, it's quite different here with PHP. So let's continue here. The user object, I will just move it. And I will move it inside of get response, and then I will know that looks fine, and here I will assign action variable with get again, so you see for match, and so it will be able to match that. And let's continue. So when I was saying that match is available since PHP 8.1, it was actually the other way around. Yeah, so in get response I will, because I will need action to be a global in the global scope, otherwise I will just move to get response inside like that. So yeah, about PHP 8.1, so it's the enumeration are available since PHP 8.1, but the match function is available since PHP 8.0. So just so you know, enum PHP 8.1. It's always good to know, especially when you have to deal with older PHP versions. And match function is available since PHP 8.0. So now let's continue. And here in match, we just had a curly bracket. I have to change that to 1, so it from where this one is missing. Sometimes, when in PHP, when there's an error, actually now everything is all good again, but sometimes it can be, you have to count exactly. If you have to make sure that the curly brackets, the closing one, are there too. It's easy to miss one. So here, I will move the enum on the top, because I will call the create one. So user action, I will call the enum user action colon. That's how we call the enum. And then you see that's all of the keys. And we will just have to move so self, because we are in the same, we'll be in the same object, so we'll be in the enum itself. As you can see, now we are inside of user action, and that's an enum. So like I said, enum in PHP, the concept and especially the way we declare an enum is different. So you have to use self, because that get response method is actually inside of an enum. An enum is a bit like a class, and that's why sometimes it can be a little bit funny or a bit harder to understand how an enum works in PHP, because an enum is like a structure and you store something inside, and you can store methods as well. And now here we do this inside of match, because it's that enum, so that's why we have to use this. And then you see there I'm calling the enum action. Yeah, that looks correct. Otherwise null if action is not found. Perfect. And then the user ID will have to add as a parameter in retrieve integer user ID. And now you see your ID, usually like Visual Studio Code or PHP Storm, will tell you when a method, a function doesn't have any parameters, and so you can easily see the error in there. And there I can do condition for the action. If it's set, and because obviously in PHP, enums are quite complex, because the features, some of the features are borrowed from a normal class, and this is why you can see the method, and we can see this $sign this inside of the get response, and we can use self to call the different kind of constant with each case in the enum, which is the enum themselves. So let's see an enum a little bit like a normal class, where we declare constants, but here it was case. And so you see now, instead of having a if else statement, I'm using a new match. And because that will be just handier to do. So using match there. So again, match is available since PHP 8.0. It's really handy because you see now I can just reuse what we receive from the action, and I will call the right method, I mean the right condition for after for our get response in our enum. And again here I'm just using again, so if I receive create, if we receive create from the get request from the web browser, I will call the user action create, and the same for retrieve, I will call retrieve, and here to be the same for remove, and then we'll have one for update. Yeah, remove, and then the last one for update, user action ::update. That one I can just remove. Yeah, beautiful. And so here I will just assign to a variable after the match for get response. So to be user action here. So user action equals, yeah, I just do like that. That works. A default one. So it's nice to have a default one, although it's not mandatory. But sometimes when let's say action has null, then it will go to default, because if the action variable has null, it won't match create, retrieve, remove, and update. It will just go to the default case. Here I need to update that, retrieve all, and then nearly done. We have retrieve all, we forgot that one, and again I will call retrieve all. Perfect. Now user action, I can just go like that, equals, and yeah, now for our get response, it will hold the correct one. It will know which one to use inside of the user action enum.